that being a Muslim and facing remarks like these is not funny either. The college has now initiated a probe into the matter and has suspended the lecturer until the inquiry is complete. Karnataka School Education Minister B.C. Nagesh has also gone on to say that though everyone uses terms like Ravan, it becomes a problem when Kasab is mentioned.
No, it's not, sir. It's not. 26/11 was not funny. Islam terrorism is not funny. Being a Muslim in this country and facing all of this every day is not funny.
Just like my son.
No. Will you talk to your son like that?
My son, no.
Will you call him by the name of a terrorist?
No.
Khalas. How can you call him like that?
No problem.
In front of so many people in a class.
Sorry, I told you.
You're a professional. You're teaching.
Yeah, sorry.
You can't call me that.
Sorry, I told you.
Right? The story doesn't change how you think or how you portray yourself here.
The name of Ravana comes many times. You behave like Ravana, you behave like Shakuni. It doesn't become an issue at all. When you speak about Kashyap, it becomes an issue. I don't know. He would have not used it because that is the young minds. Why such issues will be blown up again the reality? That is the thing. Means everything will be politicized only because again it is the politics, again it is confirming the vote bank.
Let me now bring in my colleague Akshara, who's in fact been tracking all these developments for us. Akshara, two aspects to the story. One, of course, what is the action that is being taken by the university against this teacher and lecturer? And more importantly, the narrative that is now being set out by the BJP when we hear B.C. Nagesh saying that why is it a problem when comments like Ravan are made and only a controversy is created when a comparison to Kasab is drawn. So help us understand both these aspects. What is the action that is being taken against the teacher and what is the point that is being made by the BJP here?
Well, answering your first question, the Manipal Institute of Technology has suspended the professor who passed such remarks against the student comparing him to Kasab. And they also released a statement wherein it states that they in any chance they don't stand with the views of the professor. And right now we are also seeing the reaction of Karnataka Education Minister B.C. Nagesh, who is still saying that it's not a big issue, it's not a big deal. And he's also saying that whenever someone passes comments like comparing them to Ravana or Shakuni, a big issue is not made out of it. But taking names of Kasab has made it a national issue, and he's also been questioning why is it being made a national issue. And he's also alleged that they're trying to politicize this issue. But again, you have the Congress who are saying that BJP is known for communalizing such issues and patronizing education and requesting them not to politicize this particular issue which has come to light.
Akshara, what I also essentially want to understand, just going back to first that video that we saw, which of course has now become viral on social media, hats off and kudos to that student for actually standing up and highlighting, which is essentially a sensitive issue. But what was even more sad and unfortunate was the bit that you saw the other classmates and possibly friends of the student who were actually seen laughing and giggling. So what is the kind of measures that are being taken by the university at large to try and sensitize not just students but even professors at large?
Well, you see, it's unfortunate that what you mentioned about the classmates giggling and laughing at the matter while the students slammed the professor for the derogatory comments. Right now, the private institute, the Manipal Institute of Technology, has taken strict action against the professor, as we know, and they have suspended him and stated that they do not stand by the views, but also they have taken strict measures to ensure that such incidents do not occur in their private university. And we are yet to know what measures will be taken in order to sensitize the students in their university.
Okay, Akshara, what I also want to now understand is the political aspect when you have B.C. Nagesh saying that.
Good evening, hello and welcome. You're watching CNN News 18. This is Nation at 5 with me, Poonam Burde. As China continues to be under pressure domestically with widespread protests against its zero-COVID policy, the lens is on the border tensions with India as well. That has now sparked a diplomatic firestorm. The Pentagon has released a report to the U.S. Congress which claims that the Chinese government has sought to downplay the severity of the crisis at the line of actual control with an aim to prevent India from strengthening ties with the United States. However, as per that report, China has sustained the deployment of forces and continued infrastructure build-up along the LAC, while negotiations have made minimal progress. Meanwhile, the Chinese government has warned America not to interfere in its relationship with India. Protests, though, continue there domestically. There are protests that are not only taking place in the capital but across major cities from Shanghai, Beijing to Wuhan. The COVID-19 lockdown, the zero COVID policy that has been in effect for 3 long years now since the beginning of the pandemic, is now making the citizens of China extremely angry. The protests have spread to dozens of university campuses as well. It's an unprecedented challenge to the Communist Party on a scale that has not been seen in China for decades together. Now, these protests against these lockdowns was triggered by the widespread anger over the death of at least 10 people in an apartment fire in which people believe the deaths occurred because rescue was delayed. Why? Because there were these stringent COVID-19 rules and protocols that were in place. Let's now take you through the key takeaways of what exactly the Pentagon report says. The Pentagon report, which has now been submitted to the U.S. Congress, goes on to say that China is seeking to prevent India from partnering closely with the United States. So it's the United States-India bonhomie that seems to be rattling China. PRC officials, which is People's Republic of China, their officials have warned the United States to not interfere between India and China. The United States has been warned to not interfere in PRC's relationship with India, is what Pentagon has now told the U.S. Congress. They also go on to say that Chinese officials have sought to downplay the severity of the 2020 Galwan clash. So this is the report that has now been submitted to the U.S. Congress. There are several other claims that have also been made in this particular report as to how militarily build-up is taking place along the LAC, and China is trying to put in this charade as far as its military build-up and its expansionist policies are concerned, whether they will succeed or whether it is just a show out of them being rattled. To discuss that, we have Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow of the ORF, with us on this broadcast. Andrew K.P. Leong, an international and independent China strategist based in Hong Kong, will be joining us shortly. And a former diplomat, Prabhu Dayal, now joins me on this broadcast. Sushant Sareen, let me get started with you on this. There's lots that is not going China's way, especially in the recent past. We've seen the kind of narrative that was seen at G20. We're seeing the kind of unprecedented protests that have taken place across major cities of China. This is something that never happens or is out of the ordinary as far as China is concerned. A surveillance stated that.
That's true, because I think a totalitarian state like the Chinese do not, behove of any kind of dissent or demonstrations against the regime. There are local level, protests often, but those are very local level and on local issues. The latest protests actually aim right at the top. They are critical of the leadership. They're critical of the party. They're demanding freedom. There are shades of, the Tiananmen Square agitations which happened almost 30 years back. So there is a reason for the Chinese government to be spooked by what's happening. Now, whether these protests, gain some kind of a critical mass and become enough of a threat for the Chinese regime, it's difficult to say because of the kind of oppressive and repressive regime that it is. But nevertheless, the fact that people, despite all of that, have come out openly in the streets and are protesting, and these are young people, these are people from some of the top universities of China, it does not augur very well for the kind of policies that the Chinese Communist Party has been following in China. So I think if there is some alarm bells ringing in the Chinese Communist Party, then there are good reasons for those alarm bells.
Right, there are good reasons because domestically, yes, they are in trouble, at least as far as the top leadership, Xi Jinping, the CCP is concerned. They would have wanted to keep a lid on this like they always have. And Prabhu Dayal, internationally as well, there is a lot happening and there is enough pressure that is being built by several other countries as well. There are several multinational companies that are looking to pull out, especially because of the zero COVID policy and how things really aren't moving forward in the last 3 years. We just had yesterday Rishi Sunak come out and say that the golden era of ties between UK and China are over. Today, we have a nuclear power project partnership between the two countries that has also now been called off. So internationally too, Xi Jinping and the Chinese administration is feeling the heat.
Yes, you're right. The government of Xi Jinping is definitely feeling the heat, both on account of internal developments as also on account of the international opinion, which is gathering momentum against the policy which the Chinese have been pursuing. You referred to Rishi Sunak's comments, and they were very, very categorical in the sense that he said that the golden era of the relations between China and Britain is over, and that now tough times lie ahead because Britain is at last waking up to the reality of China. For long, the British government had ignored the reality of China to suit its own interests. But I think it is finding it difficult to do so, and it has to wake up to what China actually represents and what it stands for. The United States has also been very, very forthright. And in fact, the Pentagon report, which has been recently released, said that the Chinese were alarmed and had warned the United States about siding with India and interfering in China's relations with India. All this indicates the fact that the Chinese are getting rattled. Of course, the internal developments in that country have played a very big role in unnerving the Chinese, because internal dissent of the order and magnitude as is being witnessed now had not been witnessed earlier. And it is not just a protest about COVID restrictions and all. It is much, much more than that. It is taking the form of serious internal political dissent, and the Chinese have reasons to worry about that.
Right. Right. And there is a lot of pressure that Xi Jinping is facing. We are seeing that on both sides, and ties with India, particularly Prabhu Dayal, is something that has been on a rocky boat, really, especially in the last 2 years. We've had External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar even come out and say that this perhaps is where the ties have been at the lowest. It cannot be a one-way street. So as far as the LAC and the border issue is concerned, we've had negotiations with the Chinese militarily over this. We've had diplomatic engagements as well. And yet the progress has been extremely slow because the expansionist mindset really of Beijing stays.
You're right again. The Chinese have always exhibited an expansionist tendency in regard to relations with India. They covet territory which is Indian, and this creates serious obstacles. The Chinese are not going to change, and India has realized that it must strengthen its own resources and its ability to stand up to the Chinese threat. And we have done it. We have created infrastructure along the line of actual control, and this has rattled the Chinese, because I think the Chinese have begun to realize that India has the capability to stand up to China, because the Chinese are a bully and they want to show their strength all around. They want to throw their weight around, and India has told them that you can't do it. And the clashes along the line of actual control have shown that India has the punch which can deliver to the Chinese something very, very, very serious, which they had never anticipated. So in other words, India's own strength in being able to stand up to China is something that the Chinese had not anticipated, and this too has rattled them.
Right, and that really is the problem as far as the line of actual control is concerned. That also is a problem as far as the expansionist policies or the mindset of China is concerned. But Sushant Sareen, many would say that it's really not what India is doing with its other alliance partners or with China that is what is rattling China, or that is what is making these changes. It is just the domestic pressure that seems to be working, and India is just trying to take advantage of that. Would you agree with that kind of argument?
No, I don't think India has tried to take advantage of the discomfiture which the Chinese regime is feeling internally or domestically. I think the Chinese have forced India's hand by their aggressive policies along the border. And nothing which is there in this particular Pentagon report is really surprising, because I think there were two factors which have always been present. One, the Chinese effort to de-link their aggression on the border and their quest to salami slice Indian territory and capture Indian territory from the larger relationship between India and China. Now, this is the tactic or a ploy which the Chinese used with other countries around their borders, right? But with India, there's been a pushback. In most other countries, find it difficult to push back. But in India's case, there's been a pushback. And India has let it be known to the Chinese that this duality of approach is not acceptable, that you can't be trying to capture territory from India and then still imagine that everything will be hunky-dory on various other aspects of the relationship. So that was one factor. The second factor is also quite interesting, because the Chinese aggression, one of the reasons, I'm not saying that was the only reason, but one of the reasons for the Chinese aggression on the borders was because the Chinese thought that they would teach India, quote unquote, teach India a lesson and prevent India from going too close to the United States. What has happened actually is that not only has been there a pushback from India's side, there has been a counter mobilization, but it has actually hastened the process of the Indians going along with the Americans, and the kind of traction that the Quad and other such forums have received in the recent years, that's kind of backfired on the Chinese. Now, frankly, as far as the Chinese are concerned, there is no easy pullback because I think they have forced India's hand to a point where, far from dissuading India from getting close to the United States and the West, they have incentivized India to become closer to the United States and the other countries, which are U.S. allies, and form some kind of a coalition of the willing, if you will, to confront, to contain the Chinese aggression, the Chinese expansionism. So I think that's kind of backfired on the Chinese. And clearly, that is again something which the Chinese have called upon themselves. It is not what the Indians have done along the borders, but what the Chinese have done, which have spoiled the relationship between both countries.
Absolutely, and that has been made clear by India and by the External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar as well on multiple occasions. I request you both gentlemen to stay on with me, because I want to break this down for our viewers once again, for the benefit of all those who are joining this broadcast now. Let's tell you what exactly is transpiring in China and why it is that China is completely rattled, which is why we're seeing these kind of overtures. Now, there are several reasons that China is feeling the heat. There is increasing protests over their zero COVID policy, like we've been discussing. We've seen those protests that began about Friday last week go on unabated across major cities. Even though there are armed policemen right on the streets, these protesters have not budged. There's global support that is coming to the fore against this crackdown by the Chinese. There are several countries, including Canada, that have come out to speak of how there should be a way for people to express their opinion, a way to for people to come out and air their grievances, which is exactly what these protesters are doing. Another reason that China is feeling the heat is the economy. Their GDP is dipping. The industrial profits are taking a toll, especially because of this zero COVID policy that has been in place. Like we've been speaking of, several multinational firms are mulling a pullout out of China because supply chains are taking a hit. Workers are not in factories because of these stringent COVID-19 protocols or rules that are in place. And multinational firms are now feeling the heat. They're now mulling to move out of China and find other countries so that their businesses do not take a hit. The United Kingdom is the latest country to have actually pulled off from a project, a partnership that it was working with China in. It was a Sizewell power project, a nuclear power project, in fact, that is the latest blow that has come to the fore for the Chinese government. So there are multiple factors at play. But Prabhu Dayal, would you say this somewhere points to the isolation or the cornering of China being complete, so to say?
Well, China has been doing a lot of things which have resulted in countries pulling themselves away from a relationship with China. Now, you referred to the restrictions on account of COVID. people all over the world, including people in China, are realizing that while COVID has been checked and controlled in other countries, it has been controlled remarkably in India. It has also been controlled in Europe and America, but it has not been properly controlled in China. So what does that indicate? People are questioning the ability of their own country to develop a proper vaccine. There are questions being asked about the efficacy of the Chinese vaccine. Then again, there are questions being asked about whether the Chinese authorities really know what they're handling. Now, let me mention that the Chinese have tried to camouflage whatever happened by saying that the coronavirus epidemic arose from the wet markets of Wuhan. But there is global suspicion about the fact that China was up to something dirty and that coronavirus emanated from the Wuhan Institute of Virology. So people in China also know what their government was up to. And I think there is a growing realization that even the Chinese government doesn't know what it has created because the people of China are being impacted very, very directly. So in other words, the credibility of China has gone down quite a lot externally, but also very, very significantly internally within China. And that is hurting the government of Xi Jinping.
Absolutely, and not only are these protests unprecedented, Sushant Sareen, because this kind of conversation that is happening about it outside of the world is also unprecedented for China. They're used to suppressing the facts as they are. Like Prabhu Dayal was also pointing out, when the COVID outbreak happened, they tried to suppress it as much as they could. Eventually, the truth came out. So even now, while the world is watching these protests take place as they happen, that is also something that perhaps Xi Jinping and his administration never thought of.
Yeah, clearly, look, for the Chinese leadership, saving face is a big deal, right? And they are very image conscious. They want to project this very nice image of China around the world, which is why, you have many Indian newspapers carry 2 full pages of ads from the Chinese and not even feel ashamed about it. But that is just the way the Chinese do business. They throw money and they try and build up this nice, fancy image of theirs. Now, that image has taken a huge beating. For example, ever since this COVID crisis broke out or the Wuhan virus broke out, the Chinese have been trying to project that, they have been right on top of this. They have managed it better than anybody else. They managed to vaccinate their people better than anybody else. Clearly, their vaccines are failing because those vaccines have not prevented, the further casualties taking place because of the virus. Compare that to other parts of the world, especially in India. And I think we've done a stellar job of vaccination. But the Chinese projection was that, they were completely in command. And, the typical Western media that you throw at them, and the Western media will keep singing, paeans in your praise.
Right.
The Western media was also projecting the Chinese as something really great what they have done. But clearly all of that has now come unstuck because the kind of policies, every time there's an outbreak of COVID, the kind of policies which the Xi Jinping regime has followed in China, up to a point, people were able to take it. But, you are locking up people in their houses. There's nobody to take care of them. You beat up people the moment somebody steps out. We had our lockdowns, but even then, essential services continued. People could go to a local market, buy their produce. There were home deliveries and every system worked fairly efficiently. I won't say entirely, but fairly efficiently. Compare that to what is happening in China.
Right.
So clearly, that image has taken a beating. Their global, and everybody is looking at them now as this country which tries to project this very fancy image, but the reality is very different. And nobody tells you the reality of a country better than the people of that country. And when the people of that country are on the streets protesting against an authoritarian regime and showing remarkable bravery in doing this, I think it exposes China like nothing else does.
Absolutely. So China is completely exposed. Is its isolation also complete, both domestically and globally? That is something that is now out in the conversation there. It's been debated not just on TV channels like ours, but experts are also speaking of it. Parliaments are also talking of it. Is it now time, Has the time now come to push China to the wall and completely into the corner? I thank you both gentlemen for joining us here on this broadcast with your perspective. It's time for a quick break here on this edition, but lots lined up for you on the other side on Nation at 5. Don't go anywhere.
It is not funny.
Just like my son.
No. Will you talk to your son like that?
My son, no.
Will you call him by the name of a terrorist?
No.
Khalas. How can you call him like that?
No problem.
In front of so many people in a class.
Sorry, I told you.
You are a professional. You are teaching.
Yeah, sorry.
You can't call me that.
So I told you. Right?
Sir, sorry doesn't change how you think or how you portray yourself here.
The name of Ravana comes many times. You behave like Ravana, you behave like Shakuni. It doesn't become an issue at all. When you speak about Kashyap, it becomes an issue. I don't know. You would have not used it because that is the young minds. Why such issues will be blown up again in the reality? That is the thing. Means everything will be politicized only because again it is a politics, again it is confirming the vote bank.
Let me now bring in my colleague Akshara, who's in fact been tracking all these developments for us. Akshara, two aspects to the story. One, of course, what is the action that is being taken by the university against this teacher and lecturer? And more importantly, the narrative that is now being set out by the BJP when we hear BC Nagesh saying that why is it a problem when comments like Ravan are made and only a controversy is created when a comparison to Kasab is drawn. So help us understand both these aspects. What is the action that is being taken against the teacher and what is the point that is being made by the BJP here?
Well, answering your first question, the Manipal Institute of Technology has suspended the professor who passed remarks against the student comparing him to a Kasab. And they also released a statement wherein it states that they in any chance will not stand with the views of the professor. And right now we are also seeing the reaction of Karnataka Education Minister Vijay Deverakonda, who is still saying that it's not a big issue, it's not a big deal. And he is also saying that whenever someone passes comments like comparing them to Ravana or Shakuni, a big issue is not made out of it. But taking names of Kasab as made it a national issue, and he's also questioning why is it being made a national issue, and he's also alleged that they're trying to politicize this issue. But again, you have the Congress who are saying that BJP is known for communalizing such issues and patronizing education, and requesting them not to politicize this particular issue which has come to light.
Akshara, what I also essentially want to understand, just going back to first that video that we saw, which of course has now become viral on social media, hats off and kudos to that student for actually standing up and highlighting, which is essentially a sensitive issue. But what was even more sad and unfortunate was the bit that you saw the other classmates and possibly friends of the student who were actually seen laughing and giggling. So what is the kind of measures that are being taken by the university at large to try and sensitize not just students but even professors at large?
Well, you see, it's unfortunate that what you mentioned about the classmates giggling and laughing at the matter while the students slammed the professor for the derogatory comments. Right now, the private institute, the Manipal Institute of Technology, has taken strict action against the professor, as we know, and they have suspended him and stated that they do not stand by the views, but also they have taken strict measures to ensure that such incidents do not occur in their private university. And we are yet to know what measures will be taken in order to sensitize the students in their university.
Okay, Akshara, what I also want to now understand is the political aspect. When you have BC Nagesh saying that politics are being intentionally created, why are we even seeing a row as far as these comments are concerned? Are we seeing the opposition also react? Any other political reactions that you're picking up?
Well, we are yet to receive any political reactions on this, but you see, a Congress leader who spoke with CNN said that the BJP is trying to communalize the issue and politicize the issue, and requesting them not to indulge and politicize this issue, because we have seen many such allegations before as well, where the Congress has openly alleged that and said that the present government and also BC Nagesh, the Karnataka education minister, is trying to saffronize the issue, saffronize the education in the state, and they also pointed out many such incidents where newly built classrooms were being painted saffron, a plan which was rolled out by the Karnataka education minister, which was again slammed by the Congress, and summing up all these incidents which have taken place in Karnataka state, the Congress leaders are once again saying that not to politicize the issue and indulge in communalizing it.
Akshara, but what I also want to understand, when BC Nagesh, who's the education minister, goes forward and say that why are we even creating the controversy, when you hear a minister make comments like this, isn't he actually downplaying the biases that still exist and the bigotry as well? Because on one hand, as I said, you had a very brave student taking on the teacher and possibly the institute. When a minister says why is a row being created, isn't he downplaying the entire situation, and couldn't this backfire against the BJP?
Well, absolutely, yes. BC Nagesh is openly trying to downplay this bigotry, and it's an unfortunate event that has taken place, and that too in an educational institution. And after the video went viral and speaking to the media, BC Nagesh has openly downplayed it,
Welcome back. Breaking news now coming in from the national capital, where after being arrested by the Economic Offences Wing of the Delhi Police, Sukesh Chandrashekhar's associate Pinky Irani was produced before the court. She has been sent to 3 days police remand now. Pinky Irani has been accused of portraying Sukesh Chandrasekhar as a business tycoon and being instrumental in facilitating contact between him and Bollywood personalities. That's the allegation against Pinky Irani. She is going to be in custody now for 3 days. Remember, she was confronted with Jacqueline Fernandez as well during Jacqueline's questioning in this particular case, and she had named Pinky Irani and how she was a conduit between Jacqueline Fernandez and Sukesh Chandrasekhar's meetings. Ananya Bhatnagar, my colleague, now joins me for more on this. Yes, Ananya.
Well, Poonam, we have exclusively accessed the details about the court order, which has been giving out 3 days police custody remand of Pinky Irani to the Economic Offences Wing of the Delhi Police. Now, what is very, very clear at this point of time is that, number one, she used to introduce Sukesh Chandrasekhar to various Bollywood personalities as a businessman. She was the one who portrayed Sukesh as businessman in this particular case, is what the charge of the Economic Offences Wing is. Apart from that, what is also very, very clear is that Pinky Irani's arrest comes days after a 164 statement of Jacqueline Fernandez was recorded by before a metropolitan magistrate. Remember, the CNN News18 had first broken this down for its viewers, that Jacqueline had actually recorded her statement before the Economic Offences Wing after she had told the Delhi Police she wants to divulge some very, very important information. The court also considered the money trail into this particular case, also considered all the allegations that are there. In fact, the remand application of the Delhi Police's EOW clearly states that she was the one who used to introduce Sukesh Chandrasekhar to various Bollywood personalities. She used to introduce him as a businessman. She was in direct contact with Sukesh Chandrasekhar, and these are the two major reasons why Pinky Irani has been arrested into this particular case. Remember, she had been a key person of interest since the very beginning of this case, along with Jacqueline Fernandez. And in fact, Jacqueline Fernandez has constantly been saying that Pinky Irani was the one who had given out her introduction to Sukesh Chandrasekhar. So somewhere or the other, big guns being taken up in this particular case. Investigation agencies are in full swing in order to crack this one.
Absolutely. So she is going to be instrumental in the investigation against Sukesh Chandrasekhar and the 200 crore extortion racket. Ananya, do stay on with me, because we are shifting focus to another development that took place, but this time it was in the topmost court of the country. The Jamaat Ulema-e-Hind has moved the Supreme Court seeking SC status for Dalit Muslims for reservations in jobs and in admissions in government-run educational institutions. Jamaat says that the inclusion of Muslims in the scheduled caste list will increase their participation in various sectors, including in employment and in politics. The plea claims that the move will systematically impact in breaching structural lapses and will deter the marginalization of Indian Muslims. Let's now take you through the key aspects of this petition that we have accessed and what exactly is the plea that is being made by the Jamaat. The first argument that they make is that the scheduled caste status for Dalit Muslims is required because in our society, the truth of the caste system cannot be denied. They say that historically, Islam does not have the caste system, but in India, in Indian society, that system cannot be denied. They then go on to say that the denial of this SC status or the SC tag to Dalit Muslims deprives them of political benefits. They also go on to say that educational and other benefits are also deprived, that the fact that they cannot be put under the category of scheduled caste, they are lagging behind from many of their other counterparts. This petition then goes on to say that this is a calculated historical wrong to restrain practice and propagation of their religion. They then go on to quote certain reports as well, including the Sachar Committee report, and then they say in this petition that the gap between Muslims and other socio-religious categories has increased, which is why them not having this SC status as far as Muslim Dalits are concerned, that is again discrimination. Unemployment among Muslim graduates is the highest among their socio-religious groups, which is why this kind of quota is required. That's another argument that this petition is going on to make. They then quote another report in their petition which says that nearly 47% of Dalit Muslims in urban India are below the poverty line. So for them to be uplifted, this is actually a need of the hour. Ananya Bhatnagar, my colleague, continues to be with us. And Ananya, do take our viewers through what exactly is the prayer that the Jamiat is making, because just a few weeks ago, we had the centre defend the exclusion of Dalit Muslims and Christians outside of the SC tag.
Well, definitely, Poonam, you rightly pointed it out, and I'll first go on with what the Jamiat has said in its application for intervention in this particular petition that has been existing for a very long time now. What Jamiat clearly says is that the Muslims should be included in fact, the SC/STs list. Dalit Muslims should be given, SC status, and reservation should be given them in terms of jobs and also in educational institutions. Now, they also go on to say that inclusion
Sorry to interrupt you there, Ananya, but we are shifting focus to more news coming in. Vijay Deverakonda, the actor, is now being questioned in a FEMA violation. That's the latest that we are gathering for you. What exactly are the allegations against him? We're yet to ascertain. But for now, we do know that the actor, famous in the southern film industry, also now acted in the movie Liger. A FEMA probe has now been ordered. Ashish Mahershi, my colleague, now joins us for more details on that. Ashish, what exactly are the allegations that Vijay Deverakonda faces?
So, there have been certain payments which have gone to certain, foreign nationals, including, if you remember, American boxer Mike Tyson also played an important role in the film. And he was paid a huge amount of money. So the Enforcement Directorate is basically investigating a case related to Foreign Exchange Management Act. So, this is not a criminal act. This is basically a civil act under which he is being probed. They are basically looking at the payments, whether RBI norms have been followed or not. That is what they're looking at. So let's see how things move forward. As of now, what we've been told is that it's an ongoing investigation. I spoke to a senior source in the Enforcement Directorate today in the morning, and he confirmed to me that there is, he's being questioned as of today. And, it's an ongoing investigation. But these are basically payments made to certain foreign nationals, and what the Enforcement Directorate is basically looking at, whether there is a Foreign Exchange Management Act violation or not, RBI norms have been followed or not. That is what is being looked at.
Right, do stay on with me. Swastika, my colleague, also joins us for more on this. Now, Swastika, this questioning took place in Hyderabad today. We're given to understand that the Enforcement Directorate in the past has summoned director and producer of the Liger movie as well.
Yes, that's right. Now, as my colleague Ashish Mahershi was explaining, the entire controversy or the entire line of questioning is over a FEMA violation. Now, in that context, remember Puri Jagannath, who is the maker of Liger, and Charmi Kaur, she's also his partner and as well as a clear proprietor of the Liger movie, were questioned by the ED. In fact, there are multiple lines of questioning that was given to them. They were questioned over where did they find so much money, the chain of transactions essentially, to focus on making such a big budgeted film. And the budget that we're talking about is about 90 to 125 crores. So even though Liger tanked at the box office, it was a pan-India film. The Hindi version of it was bankrolled by Karan Johar. The movie was one of the most costliest movies made this year, bankrolled at a budget of 90 to 125 crores. Now, the investigation comes on the line that the money was allegedly used to fund the film came from a foreign source, which has not been disclosed properly according to the ED officials. And they say that it is a clear violation of the Foreign Exchange Management Act of 1999. And in that context, the ED had earlier summoned Puri Jagannath and Charmi. To give you the sense of what is happening right now, well, we are given to understand that Vijay Deverakonda, who is the star of that film, is being questioned along with his manager. In fact, he managed to escape the media attention essentially because we were on the ground, and for good couple of hours, it was uncertain whether Vijay Deverakonda had in fact appeared at the ED's office or not. But later on, via sources, it has been ascertained that Vijay Deverakonda is in fact being questioned as we speak by the Enforcement Directorate, and he's going to be let out in an hour or so. That is what we are picking up through our sources in the Enforcement Directorate.
Right, so the investigation is on as far as payments made during this particular film is concerned. Swastika and Ashish, my colleagues, continue to bring us the details of what exactly transpired and what exactly are the allegations that they face. Remember, Vijay Deverakonda is the latest one to in fact be investigated, to be quizzed by the Enforcement Directorate. That questioning happened this afternoon in Hyderabad at the Hyderabad ED office. Remember, Liger, the film had failed to collect even 30% of the business it made. The actor himself had time and again spoken of the failure that this film was at the box office, the kind of money that was spent on it. The budget was of a whopping 90 crore rupees, and the film released just a couple of months ago. So far, Swastika, it is all in the realm of questioning, isn't it? Because the producer and the director, the actor as well, they've all just been questioned once so far.
Well, that's right. Now, it has to be made very clear that Vijay, so far the ED officials have only been doing their round of questioning. They questioned Puri Jagannath and Charmi, not for one, but over 2 days. After that, Vijay Deverakonda is the third person appearing in the case. And Vijay Deverakonda has been summoned because it has been reported widely in the media that he drew a fact check for the movie Liger, which also marked his debut in Bollywood. It's also most likely that other stars of the film are also likely to be summoned by the Enforcement Directorate, but we are waiting to see how the investigation pans out. Now, the line of questioning essentially for Vijay Deverakonda is what we are learning is that it's going to be largely on how the movie was done, because he was in fact involved from the narration process till the execution process, right from pre-production, production and post-production stages. We are learning that Vijay Deverakonda and his banner of the talent agency, in fact, which manages him, have been thoroughly involved in that entire process. And right. Vijay Deverakonda also shares a close bond with Puri Jagannath. So his line of questioning would be whether he was aware of who was bankrolling the movie, at what budget was the movie initially proposed, because it said that the movie was proposed at a budget of 90 crores and then it went up to over 100 crores. And essentially whether he sensed any kind of irregularities in terms of receiving his paycheck, because the sum of that money we are talking about is FEMA violation, which the Enforcement Directorate is questioning. And also, very quick point, though this is completely unrelated case as of now, remember Puri Jagannath and Charmi Kaur were also questioned last year in the Tollywood drug scam case, along with a list of other celebrities. And these two individuals were also questioned about who is banking them, and their money transaction is something that has been under the purview of the investigation of the Enforcement Directorate. Right. And that is why it is possibility that both the cases are likely to be interlinked, because the more focus is on Puri Jagannath and Charmi Kaur, considering their involvement in the Tollywood drug case as well.
Right. Right. Swastika and Ashish, do keep a track of what exactly is transpiring there. The questioning continues. For the moment, though, thank you so much for giving us the latest input. Shifting our focus back to the big story that came to the fore with the Jamiat Ulema-e-Hind filing this affidavit or filing a petition in the Supreme Court demanding that Dalit Muslims be brought under the purview of the scheduled caste list. They say that it is required, is a need of the hour to ensure social and economic upliftment of the Dalit Muslims. Ashwini Dubey, an advocate in the Supreme Court, joins me on this broadcast. Tawseef Ahmed Khan, an advocate as well, with me. Tawseef Ahmed Khan, the centre just a few weeks ago went on to say that both Islam and Christianity do not have a caste system, which is why they do not have, they do not need a separate status like Hindus do. Do you agree with that argument? Because that's also something. Because that's also something the Jamiat agrees to in their petition.
No, scheduled caste and scheduled tribe was recognized by the constitution as a separate group of people who need upliftment, who need to be protected from atrocities by the people of this country itself. We have a scheduled caste, the Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989. What was the object of the act? The object of the act is to prevent the commission of offences of atrocities against the member of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, to provide for the special courts and the exclusive special courts for trials of such offences, and for the relief and rehabilitation of the victims of such offences and for matters connected thereto. So the parliament recognizes that there are a group of people, and who these scheduled caste and scheduled tribe basically are composed of indigenous people and Dalit people who are in the Indian society are considered as people belonging to lower caste. Now, the point that you are making that there are no caste system in Islam, yes, that is true. But over the period of so many decades in India, a lot many people has converted, a lot many Dalits have converted to other religion, including a mass conversion which happened where the Dalits converted to Buddhism, where Dalits are converting to Christianity and also to Islam. So if we do not need to look at this with the prism of religion. We need to look at this if these people are really the oppressed people, if these are the people who need upliftment and protection,
right,
then they are eligible to this safety under the law. The act that is passed by the parliament is aimed to protect these people only, and merely because they have a different
so their
identity
economic
of religion
disadvantage is something
it.
that takes precedence over their religion or which religion they belong to, and whether or not there was a caste system that existed in that. Ashwini Dubey, do you agree that could be a counter argument that would perhaps force a rethink in what the centre has been saying?
See, first we have to see the genesis of this case, that whether in the Christianity and Islam the caste system exists or not. Look, if we see the 1950, the constitution itself, constitutional categorized three criteria: scheduled caste, SCs, belonging to the Hindus and other segments of the Hindu like Buddhism, Sikhism, etc., which recognize it. But if we saw the other tenets or other religions of this country, like the Christianity, like the Parsis, like the Islam, then there is no scheduled caste or scheduled tribes definition given in the constitution. So scheduled caste, which recognize the Hindus and Hindus other segments who are the extreme social, educational, economic backwardness arising out of the traditional practice of untouchability. On the one hand, if we say that there is no caste system in Christianity or the Islam, and on the other hand, we say that look, this is a violation of the fundamental rights which is giving the Dalit Hindus and Dalit Christians, the Dalit STs as reservation benefits, and not giving the Muslim Dalits as a reservation benefits. So now if we see, there is already a petition pending in Supreme Court since 2004. As of now, the petition filed by the public interest litigation, and according to that petition, the question which is there is whether the 1950 constitution scheduled caste order discriminated against Dalit Muslims and Christians. So that issue is still pending in Supreme Court. So unless and until Supreme Court reaches to the conclusion and asks the parliament to amend the 1950 law saying that look, the Dalit Muslims should also be included and be treated as Dalit at par with the Dalits of the Hindu community, before that this cannot be given. given. And one thing, and second thing, if we are talking about the discrimination, that discrimination also exists in 9 states of this country, which does not treat Hindus as a minority, though they are the minority. So there are a lot of discrimination. Discrimination has to be meted out. But the only thing is whether, as of now, is there any criteria which is existing in the constitution which is prevalent for recognizing the Dalit Christians and Dalit Hindus? And that is why the 3-member committee of formulated by the parliament under the chairmanship of Justice K.G. Balakrishnan is looking onto it, that those who are converting to the different religions, though there is no Dalit or the ST criteria given in the Christianity and Islam, so whether the benefit which is being given to the Dalit Hindus, then the tribal Hindus will be given to those who convert it, and that issue is pending in the Supreme Court. And let's see whether the Supreme Court asks Parliament to recognize it or not. Till then, this application is being filed. That too, the application which has been filed, that has been filed in the 2004 petition only. The matter which is pending, the CPIL petition. So let's see what the Supreme Court decides. And Justice Rangnath Mishra committee also recommended that 1950 order was discriminatory. So let's see whether this NDA government takes up this issue or not. But as of now, if we see, there is no Dalit existing as per the constitution in Islam and Christianity.
Right, and which is the basis of what the centre has been saying in the Supreme Court as well, which is why they defended the exclusion of Dalit Muslims and Christians from the scheduled caste list. And now we have a petition that has been filed. What happens in the hearings when it actually takes place in the Supreme Court, whether or not there will be a rethink, a revision on the constitutional amendment in itself, on the constitutional provision itself, that is something that would spark a bigger debate, and this is perhaps leading towards that. I thank you both gentlemen for joining us here on this broadcast, because this debate is only going to get bigger, and we'll continue to keep a track of all that and much more on the other side of a very quick break. Please don't go anywhere.
She has suspended the professor who fastered remarks against the student, comparing him to a Kasab. And they also released a statement wherein it states that they, in any chance, will not stand with the views of the professor. And right now, we are also seeing the reaction of Karnataka Education Minister Vijay Deverakonda, who is still saying that it's not a big issue, it's not a big deal. And he is also saying that whenever someone passes comments like comparing them to Ravana or Shakuni, a big issue is not made out of it. But taking names of Kasab has made it a national issue, and he's also questioning why is it being made a national issue. And he's also alleged that they're trying to politicize this issue. But again, you have the Congress who are saying that BJP is known for communalizing such issues and patronizing education, and requesting them not to politicize this particular issue which has come to light.
Akshara, what I also essentially want to understand, just going back to first that video that we saw, which of course has now become viral on social media, hats off and kudos to that student for actually standing up and highlighting, which is essentially a sensitive issue. But what was even more sad and unfortunate was the bit that you saw the other classmates and possibly friends of the student who were actually seen laughing and giggling. So what is the kind of measures that are being taken by the university at large to try and sensitize not just students but even professors at large?
Well, you see, it's unfortunate that what you mentioned about the classmates giggling and laughing at the matter while the students slammed the professor for the derogatory comments. Right now, the private institute, the Manipal Institute of Technology, has taken strict action against the professor, as we know, and they have suspended him and stated that they do not stand by the views, but also they have taken strict measures to ensure that such incidents do not occur in their private university. And we are yet to know what measures will be taken in order to sensitize the students in their university.
Okay, Akshara, what I also want to now understand is the political aspect. When you have BC Nagesh saying that politics are being intentionally created, why are we even seeing a row as far as these comments are concerned? Are we seeing the opposition also react? Any other political reactions that you're picking up?
Well, we're yet to receive any political reactions on this, but you see, a Congress leader who spoke with CNN said that the BJP is trying to communalize the issue and politicize the issue, and requesting them not to indulge and politicize this issue because we have seen many such allegations before as well where the Congress has openly alleged that and said that the present government and also BC Nagi, the Karnataka education minister, is trying to saffronize the issue, saffronize the education in the state, and they also pointed out many such incidents where newly built classrooms were being painted saffron, a plan which was rolled out by the Karnataka education minister, which was again slammed by the Congress, and summing up all these incidents which have taken place in Karnataka state, the Congress leaders are once again saying that not to politicize the issue and indulge in criminalizing it.
Akshara, but what I also want to understand, when BC Nagesh, who's the education minister, goes forward and say that why are we even creating the controversy, when you hear a minister make comments like this, isn't he actually downplaying the biases that still exist and the bigotry as well? Because on one hand, as I said, you had a very brave student taking on the teacher and possibly the institute. When a minister says why is a row being created, isn't he downplaying the entire situation, and couldn't this backfire against the BJP?
Well, absolutely, yes. BC Nagesh is openly trying to downplay this bigotry, and it's an unfortunate event that has taken place, and that too in an educational institution. And after the video went viral and speaking to the media, BC Nagesh has openly downplayed it, and apart from downplaying it, is also trying to change the narrative as well. There is pointing out at the characters of Ravana and Shakuni which come in the Hindu mythological texts, saying that people use Ravana and Shakuni, who are the Hindu mythological characters, in order to cause derogatory comments. That is not being blown up into a national issue, but when a professor compares him to a kasab, that has blown up into a national issue. So the BJP, Karnataka Education Minister, is also trying to set a narrative right here which is condemnable, and the Congress leaders have condemned it.
Right. Akshara, quickly, I just want to go back to the university to understand, while I did see the statement that was put out and that was lauded by many, that at least the university is owning up to the incident that had happened. But are we getting reports of any such or similar incidents that have possibly been seen or reported in the university before?
Well, no, we haven't received any such particular incidents related to this, communal assets or being students being being passed with this derogatory comments. But absolutely, this particular issue has blown up out of proportion and has become viral right now after being uploaded on social media.
An incident that took place between a student and a lecturer at the Manipal's Institute of Technology is now gaining a lot of traction. It has also created a bit of controversy, and the video has been doing rounds on social media. Now, what can you exactly see in this video? The lecturer referred to a student as Kasab, to which the student responded saying that 26/11, the terror attack, isn't funny, and that being a Muslim and facing remarks like these is not funny either. The college has now initiated a
Welcome back. The battle for Gujarat is heating up. It is phase 1 of elections tomorrow, but the 5th of December phase is also crucial, and which is why BJP is campaigning in full gear. Amit Shah is holding a roadshow there in Ahmedabad. The Sea of Saffron there, waiting to catch a glimpse of the Union Home Minister, who is on campaign trail in his home state of Gujarat. Siddhant, my colleague, now joins us for more on this. Siddhant, it's little over 12 hours to go before the first vote is cast in Gujarat, but the campaign hasn't stopped for the second phase.
Well, yes, Home Minister Amit Shah's roadshow. Home Minister Amit Shah's roadshow is currently going on, and we are in. And in fact, this is the Ahmedabad where this massive roadshow is right now going on. Now the focus is on the seats of Ahmedabad, which is going to poll on 5th of December. Ahmedabad has always been traditionally BJP's bastion, and in fact, BJP is very confident this time around also. The target is to get more and more people for roadshow, and in fact, a lot of people have come on the streets to catch a glimpse of Home Minister Amit Shah here in Asarwa area of Ahmedabad. So for next few days, the focus is going to be Ahmedabad and nearby seats, because these seats are going to poll from 5th of December. Along with Amit Shah, the other senior leaders are also camping in Ahmedabad. And in fact, they are also going to focus on these seats. Prime Minister Modi is going to address 7 rallies tomorrow and day after tomorrow. So there is going to be carpet bombing, massive show of strength, and in fact, BJP is trying to build a perception that BJP has been in power and is going to be in power in Gujarat. There is no alternative for BJP, and that is what BJP is right now focusing on. Back to you.
Right, so the BJP's campaign is in fever pitch as far as the second phase of elections go in Gujarat. It is the home state for Union Home Minister Amit Shah, and you can see those from the visuals. The support of Karyakartas of the people on ground there in Ahmedabad is undeniable for the BJP, and that's really what they are banking on to ensure the victory margin is as large as it could be, because even though the BJP has been in power for 5 terms now in Gujarat, their margin of victory has been on the downside, and that is something that they would want to better this election season.
Well, yes. So they have been in power for the last 27 years, and with each and every election, there is new challenger to Bharatiya Janata Party. Last time round, it was Congress Party, which tried their best. In fact, Congress Party tried their best to defeat BJP. They, in fact, brought down BJP to 99, double digit. But despite that, BJP won. This time around, there is no such factor in the state. Last time around, there was demonetization, then Patidar issue, and several other factors also. This time around, talking about issues, there is no such issue against BJP in the state. Also, the Congress is not following the politics of counter attacks on BJP. They are only raising their hyper-local issues. So as far as the state-wise fight is concerned, Congress Party there is also playing low-key. They are not coming in front and attacking the BJP. That is also one major factor. So this time around, it is BJP which is seen everywhere in the state, and this is the reason that BJP is confident. And this time the target that BJP has set is to cross 130 mark, and this is what we have been told. Their leaders are saying that they are going to cross the target of 149, which was made by the Congress Party under the leadership of Madhav Singh Solanki in 1985. But BJP's target is to get the maximum seats, so that this time around they create a new record in their home back to you.
Right, Siddhant, we're also going to be seeing the Prime Minister back in his home state tomorrow, isn't it? I believe we've lost that line now with Siddhant, my colleague, who's getting us the latest from on ground there in Ahmedabad. Remember, it is less than 12 hours before the first vote is cast in Gujarat tomorrow. Campaigning there continues for all stakeholders. It is a battle of prestige, definitely, for the BJP. With that, it's a wrap from me on this edition. Viewpoint with Zaka Jacob coming up.
There's a massive new twist to the CAA debate. The DMK, the ruling party in Tamil Nadu, has now moved the Supreme Court, claiming that the CAA is discriminatory because it only makes provision for persecuted minorities in 3 Muslim countries, Pakistan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan. It eliminates the possibility of Sri Lankan Tamil Hindus who have suffered at the hands of the majority Sinhala Buddhists from gaining citizenship through the CAA. This is the basic contention of the DMK petition that's been moved in the Supreme Court. But the BJP is claiming that for all these years, for the last 2.5 years since this legislation was introduced in Parliament, the DMK has been opposed to it. Why are they suddenly now seeing virtues in the CAA? So this is turning out to be a full-on political battle between the BJP and the DMK. But there are wider consequences and wider ramifications, all of which we will get to in just 1 second. But first, the story of why the ruling party in Tamil Nadu, which was so far shying away from this controversial piece of legislation, is now moving the Supreme Court, asking that the ambit of the CAA, if indeed it is going to become law, then it be widened to Sri Lankan Tamil Hindus, who are some of whom are refugees in this country.
The tussle over the Citizenship Amendment Act is back in the spotlight. DMK has moved the Supreme Court calling CAA arbitrary, anti-Tamil and against fabric of secularism. In its affidavit, DMK has stated that CAA ignores the reality of Tamil refugees who've settled in India. These Tamil refugees are deprived of their rights due to non-citizenship, lack of jobs. Access to basic rights and amenities has left these refugees handicapped. They are forced to stay in camps where they are often exploited. Requests for citizenship by these Tamil refugees have fallen on deaf ears of the centre.
Because they don't want Muslims and Tamils to come back to India, because they are anti-Tamils, anti-Muslims.
The CAA was passed by the Parliament in December 2019 and allows non-Muslim minorities in Pakistan, Bangladesh and Afghanistan to acquire Indian citizenship in order to escape persecution in their home countries. Governments in Tamil Nadu and Kerala have questioned CAA right from the start, claiming that the law is against constitutional secular principles. But the centre has maintained that CAA does not violate any fundamental right.
We should first of all understand what is CAA. It is meant for those who suffered in Pakistan while India got partitioned.
So is DMK's move a question of parity, or is it simply politics?
All right, let me go across to our guests who are joining us now. Narayanan Tirupati is Vice President of the Tamil Nadu BJP, A. Saravanan, spokesperson of the DMK, Suman C. Raman, political analyst, will be joining us, and Ramaswamy Meyyappan, advocate, joining us as well. Saravanan, let me start with you first. For the last 2.5 years, since this bill was brought in Parliament and this law was talked about, the CAA, your party has been opposing it. Now you're saying expand or widen the ambit because this doesn't cover Sri Lankan Tamil Hindus. I mean, what is the logic of opposing a bill for the last many years and now saying expand it to include Sri Lankan Tamil Hindus? Surely the Sri Lankan Tamil Hindus have not been as persecuted as Hindus in Pakistan or Hindus in Bangladesh over many centuries and generations.
Maybe that is your view, Zaka. We cannot have guidelines, or we cannot have what are the specifications to which how they are persecuted. Persecution is persecution. This is one thing. See, we were opposing this CAA mainly on the principle that it discriminates on the basis of religion. We opposed it in the Parliament. This is a humane legislation. When we speak about humanity, can we say that we will give this kind of humanity to people belonging to one particular religion? We will exclude people on the basis of religion. This is foul of our constitution.
No, but Saravanan, the persecution of these people is basis their religion. Even Sri Lankan Tamil Hindus, to buy your argument, they were persecuted because they were Tamil Hindu. They were not Sinhala or Buddhist. So if the persecution is basis religion, then the law that gives them citizenship can also be based on religion, because the persecution is based on religion.
Yes, you are right. When we say that persecution is based on religion, that is why I said it is a humane legislation. We cannot restrict that this is the only way we will look at persecution. That is the problem. How can we say that somebody else there is not persecuted because of their religion? That is one point. The other thing, when we are coming into the Sri Lankan Tamils issue, the important point is this. They are all Tamil Hindus. They have been persecuted by the majority Sinhalese. So definitely they will fall into this. Why are you denying them this opportunity?
Okay.
So what is your idea? Your idea is to pander only to a certain group of people.
Okay, so let me ask Narayanan Tirupati that. Sri Lankan Tamil Hindus, and it's been well documented, have been persecuted by the Sinhala majority largely during the 30 years of the Civil War and even now in the after effects of the Civil War. Why are you not allowing them to seek refuge in India and seek citizenship under the CAA? I mean, it's double standards. Persecution can't just be in Bangladesh, Afghanistan and Pakistan. Persecution has happened in Sri Lanka also.
Zaka, one way I am very happy that at least now DMK talks about having some concern on Hindus, because normally they hate Hindus, they hate Hindu gods and goddesses, and they abuse Hindu religion.
We have
but suddenly
BJP
they love for Saravanan, have some manners. Have some manners.
When you say that,
Zaka,
okay, one at a time, please. Saravanan, when you spoke, Mr. Tirupati did not interrupt. So let's go one by one, please. Let's extend each other basic courtesys. Mr. Tirupati, make your point. Yeah. Okay, only Mr. Tirupati on frame, please. Thank you. Yeah.
I know the DMK will shout like this. Okay.
No, but please stick to the issue. Sri Lankan Hindus are less Hindu.
Pardon me, what is it, Jaka?
No, I asked you a question. Why are you not extending the same to the Sri Lankan Hindus?
Zaka,
they are as persecuted as Bangladeshi Hindus or Pakistani Hindus.
The issue is totally different. The love for Sri Lankan Tamils for DMK is really astonishing. See, from 1984, these people are coming as refugees. What was DMK doing right from 15 years they were in rule? What have they done? Nothing. In fact, they were responsible along with Congress for the killings of 1.5 lakhs Tamils. We need to understand this. Suddenly, these people are, now waking up and saying that Sri Lankan Tamils should be, rescued. Now, say this Sirimao Sastri Pact, which was done in 1960s. This is the ally of DMK, Congress. They only said the time limit has gone and they cannot bring more people from Sri Lanka, and they said it is cancelled and no longer it is valid. And then only in 2003, during BJP government under Atal Bihari Vajpayee, we have very clearly made and saw to it that all these leftover in Sri Lankan Tamils were given citizenship. They are citizens of Sri Lanka. The refugees, as far as the refugees now in India is concerned, it is very clear. It was the move of the Congress government to rehabilitate them into Sri Lanka. We have made a lot of dialogues, and now we are doing the same. So we need to understand that these both are two different issues, and the citizenship bill, what we are planning is, what we have done is, those people belong to India when we were under the British rule. So we need to understand, and this is not the case in Sri Lanka. This is a total issue, and this is a different country altogether. We need to understand.
So let me ask
Sumansi
Raman, as per the admission of the Tamil Nadu state government itself in the Supreme Court in an affidavit that they filed earlier this year, there are currently only 58,000 Sri Lankan refugees living in 107 refugee camps across the state of Tamil Nadu. Now, the question that's being asked is, of this some amount, a very few number, maybe 3,000, maybe 4,000 of them want to go back to Sri Lanka. The remaining want to live here in India. Now, surely, for these 50,000 people, you don't need the provisions of the CAA to seek refuge here in India or to gain citizenship here in India. There's already an existing law under the Citizenship Act of 1955, under which, over the years, many number of people who have sought refuge here in India have become citizens. So why should the DMK be worried about moving the Supreme Court, opposing CAA, saying that it does not recognize or does not give a path to Sri Lankan Tamil Hindus who are living here, who also have had to flee because of religious persecution?
Zaka, first of all, we have to look at the numbers. Why are the Sri Lankan refugees still in refugee camps almost 12, 14 years after the end of the conflict?
War, yeah.
Right? Now, that is the first question we need to ask themselves. So, if there was an easy route to awarding them citizenship or some kind of rights here, what has the government done? And mind you, this comes squarely at the central government. It's their responsibility to take it up and do it. So it has not happened. The fact that they are living in refugee camps is a fact.
No.
Even the
So one second. I'm not holding a brief here for the central government, but DMK, ADMK, both of them have espoused so much concern about Sri Lankan Tamils, and they've been alternately ruling since 2009 when this conflict got over. What have they done to make their case?
Yes,
what have they done to make the case of the Sri Lankan refugees?
Look, Zaka, there are 2 points here. Whether the DMK has the moral authority to speak on behalf of the Sri Lankan Tamils after having presided over one of the biggest genocides which happened to the Sri Lankan Tamils. They were in power in the center. The Congress government of Dr. Manmohan Singh would have fallen in a matter of hours had they pulled the plug on the government, saying that you should stop the massacre of innocent civilians. They did zilch at that time. So they have got zero moral responsibility or authority to talk on this topic at all, because the greatest betrayal of Sri Lankan Tamils has happened by the DMK. So let's get that out of the way. Having said that, is the CAA fair in the sense that it leaves out? Look, there are 2 issues which are essential to be covered under the CAA. One, you need to be a minority in the country where you are. The second is you need to be persecuted. The Sri Lankan Tamils fit both these criteria. Now, you want to make artificial distinctions saying erstwhile countries which were ruled by British, and then you want to bring in another distinction saying that, they are probably, should be countries where majoritarian governments exist. That's not really part of the law. Instead, suppose the law actually said we will give non-Muslims who are facing persecution in Muslim countries only will be covered under the CAA. It will be struck down by the courts, and that is possibly the reason why they have not worded it in that particular way, Zaka. But look, let's face facts.
No,
There
it
is a
specifically mentions the countries. It mentions Pakistan, it mentions
Why?
Afghanistan, it mentions...
Why?
Because it is
Why?
in these countries where Hindus as a minority have been persecuted by
So-
the Muslim majority population, or,
No, no, no.
or in
Then-
this case,
then, one second.
Islamic states.
Then-
Pakistan is a
No, no.
declared Islamic state.
Then the CAA must say that we will offer persecution only to those persecuted by Islamic states and not in other
Okay.
states. As far as I know, the CAA does not explicitly say
No.
that it will cover
I
only
want
states
to ask
which are
Ramswamy
Islamic states.
Mayappan, what I find quite curious about the DMK's argument and its logic in moving the Supreme Court is, on the one hand, CAA, they are opposed to CAA as a law because it discriminates, because the whole law is based on religion. The whole framing of the law is there is a certain minority group, that minority group has been persecuted because of a religion. In the case of extending that to the Sri Lankan Tamils, you are using that same logic to extend it to a linguistic minority. So religious minority is an argument that DMK is not willing to buy.
No, they are
but
also-
but
they are
extending
also
it to a
religious
linguistic minority, that's okay.
Zaka,
I mean,
they
no,
are-
no,
they are
whether it's
also
one
religious
second,
minority.
Suman,
They
the
are
issue,
Hindus-
no,
they are Hindus versus synagogue Buddhists.
the issue is not religious
No.
minority or linguistic minority.
are.
No,
They are a
you
religious
are
minority
you
too.
are a minority. Period. Right? That is the basis. That is the basis
No, no.
of the argument.
But
I mean,
Sri Lankan
if
Tamils
that
are a
way,
religious
one
minority
second.
too.
If that way you were to, if you were to argue, what basis are the blacks in America minority? They are minority because they are. This is basis